In today's video, I'm going to show you how I construct the A5 notebook insert of my printable download, the Ultimate Planner Bundle Printable. Now, this printable also is available for A5 planners, as well as for Happy Planner Classic and letter size planners. So you can choose from 4 different printable download that suits your planner system. So let me show you the tools that I'll be using today. Now, they're not all necessary, but it does help the construction a lot easier. Now, here I have a scoring board with a scoring bone that just helps fold the paper nice and crisp. Again, not necessary, but if you do have any tools lying around that can help you create nice crisp folds, then that is a plus. Now, I'm lucky enough to have received this long stapler that my mum used to use as part of her pattern making, and this is going to allow you to staple your notebook nice and easy, because of course the middle part of the fold is quite wide and your normal stapler will not be able to get through to the middle. But I'll show you some alternatives that you can use that may take a little bit longer, but if you don't have one of these, then I'll show you alternative ways. Check the description below because I've added my Amazon affiliate link for similar ones. If you want to add colorful covers like this, then you can choose your favorite printed cardstock. So this is the one I'm currently using. So I'll see if I can find similar ones in Amazon or online, because I did buy this from Spotlight here in Australia. The other useful tools I use is a metal ruler, a craft knife, 2 bulldog clips, because I like to create a nice clean finish on the edge right here. So I'll show you how I do that. And finally, I use a paper trimmer to help me cut down to size my cardstock so it's perfect for my A5 notebook insert. All items mentioned today, I'll have the links in the description below. So let's go. Once you've purchased and downloaded the PDF for the A5 notebook, the first page is a printing instruction. Now, I do recommend for most times to print the odd pages first, flip it and refeed it into your printer, and then print the even pages. Sometimes not all printers do a good job in doing a double-sided print. So just test your own printer. You know your printer best. But because we are printing on A4 size paper and then we fold it in half to make it an A5 notebook insert, my printer is able to handle a double-sided print. Just make sure to flip on the short edge to ensure that all your pages are aligned properly. So the first 2 pages, 1 and 2, you do not need to print. Once you're ready to print, make sure the scale is fit to printable area. Flip on the short side if you're printing 2-sided, and you're ready to go. And once printed, this is how it'll come out. So you'll have 14 pages of double-sided printable. The PDF for the A5 notebook insert, the pages are already in order. So just do make sure the outside has the end of month reflection and a dotted cover. So my printer, unfortunately, is low on ink, so the printing is a lot lighter than what it would normally come out. Then the other side would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday daily pages. So to ensure that you do not confuse the pages, what I like to do is fold it in half and just make a slight crease at the top. So then that way, when I have to fold each page individually to create the crisp fold, then I know exactly which way the fold should be. So I'm going to show you the first couple of pages, and then I'm going to fast track to ensure that this video isn't too long. What I like to do is just clear some space and put my unfolded pages on one side, and one at a time take the pages, and as you can see there, we've created that little slight crease, and then I'll know exactly to fold the pages a certain way. So then I just use my scoreboard to help me place the page right in the corner there. Grab my scoring bone, fold the paper in half, line it up the best as I can. Now, of course, if you don't have a scoring board, just make sure the corners of one end and the other are nicely aligned, and then that way your fold would be nice and straight. So first I just use my finger to help me fold it, and then I use the scoring bone to create that crisp fold. This will help make your A5 notebook insert much flatter on the folded edge right here. Once we've done the first one, lay that flat on the other side because now what we'll do is once we fold the others, we're just going to put one on top of the other. Again, grab the next page, have a look at that soft fold you created earlier. Put the corners aligned on top of each other. Use your finger to create that first soft fold and your scoring bone to create the next one. Open it up and place on top. Let's do one more before I fast track the rest of them. Okay, so that's 3 pages. Let's do the rest of the 11 pages. Now the weight of the paper that I'm using here is 120 GSM. So this is nice and thick enough for you to be able to use your highlighters and markers without creating any bleed through or very minimal ghosting, especially if you're using darker markers. Now if you do go a little bit thicker, it is going to be a lot harder to fold because of course the thickness of the paper will make it bulkier, and what will happen is the inside pages on the edge, it'll protrude out, and if you want to clean it and cut the edges off, just do be mindful that it may cut a little bit of the edges. And so 120 is the page weight, or the paper weight I'm using. You can of course use 100 or anything less, but if you are going to be using any markers or highlighters, just do note that thinner paper will either have bleed through or ghosting. I do have a video comparing the different weighted paper and how it performs when you use highlighters and markers, and I'll pop that link right here. So if you're new to printing your own printables and you don't know what weighted paper to use, that's a great video explaining the different weighted paper. So we're now down to the last few pages. Create your crisp folds. Again, make sure that that little soft fold you made earlier guides you on which way to fold your paper, because if you fold it the other way around, then when you put it together with the rest of the notebook, the pages will not be in order. So that is a very, very helpful tip, because when I first did it and I didn't create that soft fold as a guide, I got so confused on which way to fold my paper. Now, here are all the 14 pages. We can just go and do a final press. And now we have constructed the inside of our Ultimate Planner Bundle printable. You have the goals tracker, mid-month check-in, calendar spread, habit tracker, mood and sleep trackers, first week of the wellbeing planner page, weekly spread, and then the daily 2-page spread, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and notes. And then it continues for 4 more weeks of the wellbeing, weekly and daily pages. And towards the back, you have space for gratitude log as well as your victory logs. So this is a great way for you to create a habit of writing and noting down what you're grateful and thankful for and your wins of the day, big and small. So there we are. Now it's time to create a nice, pretty cover page. Now, depending on the cardstock that you use, so this one is 12 inch by 12 inch, which is of course not an A4 size. So I will need to trim it down, so then that way it is an A4 size. So let's pick a pretty cover to choose for today's A5 booklet. Ooh, I quite like this one. So I'm going to just take the whole thing off. So choose whatever cardstock, colorways, and patterns that you like. I, of course, as you know, love colorful rainbow colors. And now I'm going to grab my paper trimmer. So this one is Fiskars. I do have another one, another Fiskars. So it's a lot more affordable. The only thing is, because we are a homeschooling household and we do use a paper trimmer a lot for our manipulatives and our school resources, with this particular one here, you will have to replace the blade when it starts to get blunt. And I was finding that I was replacing the blades too often, and they do cost a little bit more. And so what I did is I just invested on this particular Fiskars paper trimmer, because it is self-sharpening. So the blade is under this little cover here, and when you do slide it against this metal portion, it sharpens itself. This is a little bit more expensive than the other one, but if you know you're going to do a lot of paper trimming like I do, because not only are we a homeschool household, I also like to print my own printables. So now what we'll need to do is we need to cut this cardstock into an A4 size, so which is this one. I'm just going to grab a blank one so I don't trim off this, because I'm going to use the paper as a guide. So here's just a blank A4 paper. If you are using printed paper, just do be mindful of the print and if its orientation needs to be a certain way. Because the print of this notebook, cushions, planners, you can have it any way, any which way, it doesn't really matter. But just to let you know, because this A4 size needs to be folded this way, just have a look at what pattern is on this corner, because that will be the front cover. Depending on the pattern and print of the cardstock that you have, just check if there's any particular patterns that is in this bottom right hand corner, because that will be your cover page. So just like that. So that will be folded that way. So what I like to do, you can measure it. An A4 is 210 millimeter by 297 millimeter, but I just use an A4 size paper as my guide to how much I need to trim off of my 12-inch by 12-inch cardstock. So then I just line the edge where the blade will go through, hold this down and slice off what I don't need. Okay, now just a little tip, wider is better than narrower. So if you're not sure, just make the cardstock a little bit wider, and you can always trim off the excess, but you cannot add on additional pieces. So always best to trim a little bit wider than your A4 size. That looks pretty good. Now I have an A4 size cardstock that I can fold in half to create my cover. So let me just move a few things out of the way. Now, if you don't have a scoring board or a scoring bone, it's okay. The way to fold it is just align the corners nice and sharp, press one end, do the same for the other corner, line them up both sides best you can. Okay, use your finger to square that off. Press and then grab the middle, make sure it's lined in the corner there, line on the edge here, just press it, and then that just gives you a nice little guide, one end to the other end and the middle, and then you just press softly first and then just press, and then create the crisp fold. You can use your fingernail to create a nice crisp fold, or you can use the back of your thumbnail. So you don't have to have a scoring bone. I just have it handy because at one stage I thought I was going to create greeting cards. I still can, but it's one of those hobbies that I was eager to do and now have put aside. So now you've got your A5 inserts, and then you now have a nice cover to go over it. Doesn't that look nice? Okay. So now it's time to staple the pages together, and this is where your bulldog clips comes in handy. Let me just zoom in a bit. So make sure all the pages are lined up, one edge, so then that way it's nice and straight, because there might be some pages in the middle that's not all lined up. And then what I like to do is I like to make sure all the folds, as you can see here, are nice and straight rather than all skewed that way. Again, line them up and then line them up flat. So then that way the folds are all lined up. And then I just grab one bulldog clip and clip it there. Again, make sure it's flat, because when we staple and if it's not flat, then when you fold it, it's not going to fold nicely. And then we bulldog it there. So now that won't move. So when we staple through the paper, the pages aren't moving around. Now, if you do not have a long staple like this, what do? If you only have a normal stapler like this, of course, it's not going to reach the middle spine. So here's what you can do. It does take a little bit longer, but what you can do is create markings on each individual paper. So then you can poke a hole through it. I'm not sure what this pick is from, but you can use a nice long needle. And so just grab your ruler, grab a staple, measure the width of where one part of the staple to the other. Let's see, this is 1.2 centimeters or 12 millimeter. And then you just grab your pencil, however far off the edge you want, make a marking. Let's say 30 millimeter, and then create 1.2. Oh, there it is. You can see those tiny little pencil markings, and you just want to make sure that that is the right width for your staple. And then individually, you just poke a hole through and create those holes individually. And then once that's done, you will grab one staple, one tiny little staple. Of course, it won't break. This does take a little bit more work, but you will be printing only one set per month. And if you do print your own printable all the time, I don't think these are too expensive. It'll make life easier. Okay, we'll just pretend that this is only one tiny little staple. Then with those holes that you created individually, you will just poke the staple. Can't see it on this printed paper. You would poke the staples through until it gets to the other end and just grab some tool that won't break and then fold the staple in. So that's one way. It does take a little bit longer, but that's what I did for a long time before Mum no longer needed to use this stapler because she retired, so she gave it to me. Now you can measure how far off the edge you want your staples, but because it's just for me, it's for my own personal use, I don't need to have it all uniform. So my little trick is just 2-finger edge here. And then if you have one of these long staplers, it has a guide where you would put this little stopper so then it will staple correctly. So using the long stapler with the guide, perfect. So then it staples right in the middle of an A4 size paper. Use my fingers to measure how far off the edge I want. Just do be mindful that even though it does have a guide here, just make sure that where the staple comes out is aligned with your fold. Because sometimes, you know, the tools that you have, it might have moved around. And so just press lightly, and I can't see because it's in the shadow. I think that looks good. Again, depending on the stapler that you have, as well as the thickness of your paper and the number of pages you do construct together and the size of your staples, if it's too many pages or if it's too thick, your stapler may not go through, or sometimes it doesn't staple properly. So hopefully we get it right the first go. No, that didn't sound like it did, but we will see. Hey, not too bad. I like it. I'm happy with that. It's stapled through right the middle of the fold, so that's great. And it's not all pressed incorrectly. So that was a good first go. Let's try the second one. And I find that 2 staples is enough. I'm not traveling with my planner, or I'm not opening and closing it, so then it will need 3 staples. So if you do have a notebook that's longer, then you might want to add an additional staple in the middle. That looks good. That looks good. It all looks lined up. And let's try. That didn't sound good, but let's see. No. See how this side here, it didn't really staple too well. So I'm going to use my boning tool. Probably shouldn't because you don't want to break that. But which one was it that didn't go through? I think this one. So whatever tool you have probably that can unstaple your staple. Some stapler have a tool that you can remove staples from, and that's stuck there. Let's see, don't want to stab myself. Okay, so yeah, sometimes staplers don't staple through properly. That's okay. Try again, and then try and staple in the same hole so then you're not creating too many holes. Because normally I would be right on top of the page, but of course I don't want to do that while I'm on video because you will see the top of my head. Let's try it again. Doing it nice and quick. That's much better. So then that way the middle pages won't fall out. We can now remove our bulldog clip, fold it back up, and get your boning tool pressed as best as you can. Try and avoid pressing where the staple is because you don't want the page to rip. Okay, and then they're all nicely lined up. And which way is it the right way? So that will be for a cover page, your goals tracker, and all your pages. Now you can leave it as is because of course you've folded in half. The middle pages, as you can see, protrudes out. And so if you didn't want to have that edge, I would actually be fine with it if I didn't have the tools and I didn't have the confidence to use my craft knife to gently trim that off. But I will do that for today. So if you have a cutting mat, grab that because you want to protect your desk. Grab a craft knife. Now I bought this metal ruler specifically for cutting the edges of my notebooks because if it is a plastic one and you are using a craft knife, you can cut into the plastic and then of course the edge of your ruler will no longer be straight. So then the next thing to do is I like to fold it best as I can so all the pages are sticking out here that I need to trim off. Grab your bulldog clip again and on this side, and we are going to gently, safely, and carefully trim off that excess part. If you folded your cover page nice and straight, then the edge of the front cover should be lined up to the edge of the back cover. So whichever one is shorter, that is the one I would line up my ruler on and then cut off the edge. I think they're both pretty even. So if you have a cutting mat that has a grid, I like to normally just line up the bottom edge along one of those lines and then the corner here and the corner there lined up on one of the lines here. Now I'm just going to line up the edge of the ruler to the edge of the cover page. And then just press with enough pressure, but not too hard because sometimes if it's too hard, then it's much harder for you to glide your craft paper because then you'll start to get fatigue or anything like that. And please be careful, fingers out of the way. Try and have it holding the ruler as far away from the cutting edge. And then with your craft knife, you're just going to softly guide it. Don't put too much pressure because then if there's any resistance, you might slip. So just very gently, please, just be careful. So if you have a nice new sharp blade on your craft knife, then this should be easy. So I'm just really cutting through probably only 1 to 2 pages at a time. Don't try to cut through all of it in one go because then that's when accidents may happen. So I'm just gliding through. So then that way, this will give a nice clean finish to your notebook. Okay, just move the edges there and softly guide it through 1 to 2 pages at a time. So this is where it comes in where you don't want to put too much pressure when you're holding the ruler down because then if you get tired and you have to move your hand, the ruler may move and then it won't be aligned. Just soft, gentle slide of the craft knife or the blade until all the pieces have been cut off. I think that is it. Let's see the finished product. Look at that. Nice, clean, straight edge. It looks professional. Okay, so let's just clean up first. And here we are, my A5 notebook insert of The Ultimate Planner Bundle Printable. So it has all the pages you need for your well-being, your weekly planning, and your daily planning, as well as a gratitude and victory log space to ensure you are training your mind and your brain to look for the things you're thankful and grateful for and your wins of the day. And it has a nice clean finish edge. And this is where the 120 GSM paper is still quite thick enough, but not too thick that when you fold it in half and you want to trim the edges off, that it will not cut too much of the edge of the inner inserts. So once again, this is the Ultimate Planner Bundle Printable in the A5 notebook booklet variation. The printing of yours will be much darker because I am running out of ink on my printer. The PDF prints a much darker print than what you see here. So now we are ready to pop it into our traveler's notebook or whatever planner cover you have, or you can just keep it as is. And if you do use much thicker cardstock, then you can just pop this straight into your handbag. You have your monthly planning all done, or as well as make sure that you are looking after yourself, taking your break and creating wellness habits. But let me show you how I am using this. So here's the other two covers I created earlier. If you grab yourself whatever cardstock or printed paper, then you can have beautifully coordinated planner bundle printables. So that's 3 months worth. And I specifically bought a traveler's notebook so then I can house them in. So this A5 leather traveler's notebook I purchased from Amazon. I will have the link in the description, but it is by a company called September Leather, and it came in this beautiful packaging here. It came with a little cover bag and 3 inserts. So this I'm going to use later down the track for notes or journaling. I bought this specifically so then I can have my own planner bundle printable in my planner system. So I'm going to create a separate video flipping through how I've currently set it up. I don't know if this will stay the way it is because it is looking a little bit chunky, but I do like chunky planners. So whatever cover you have, it should have elastics in there that you can insert. So I'm going to take this one. So this is my current month for July. I've created a cover page. There's my goals for the month. So when it comes to halfway through the month, I'll do a mid-month check-in. There's my calendar, habit tracker, mood and steps tracker, well-being planner spread, weekly spread, and then my daily pages. And at the back, I have my gratitude log as well as my victory logs. So then here's one we created today. Just open it in half, and if you have a notebook that has the elastics, you just insert that in there, and then you now have your own A5 notebook insert of my ultimate planner bundle, and that is looking pretty. That makes me happy. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe to my channel so then when I do upload the video of my planner flip through of this A5 Traveler's Notebook, you will get notified. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.